righty, good day, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Dr. Coach Show. I'm your host, Dr. Coach Danny Pueblos, and I have my good friend today to talk with us about mental performance. My good friend Vince Carter. How you doing today, Vince?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been another beautiful day, right?
Awesome day.
Well, hey man, I appreciate you coming on. You and I have many conversations about different aspects of mental performance and stuff you've done in the past. And like I told you before, I wanted to bring you on to kind of share your experience with everyone else, and to give the people insight from what you've experienced, and also give you an opportunity to share what you've been talking about because recently you've been on the lecture circuit, if you will, and giving different talks, through the ASP conferences. Which, if you're not sure what ASP is, it's the Association for Applied Sports Psychology. For listening to this, and so you definitely putting yourself out there. A lot of people are getting a lot of great knowledge from you, man. So I wanted to bring you on the
Appreciate
show
it.
and kind of create this platform for you to just share what you already been doing. So
Great.
yeah. So before we get into that, can you kind of give me a little background about yourself, as far as just your background and kind of what got you motivated to get you? Because you also, in addition to working in mental performance, you also have a background in mental health, right? Like more on the clinical side. So just kind of talk to me about like where that started, and kind of take us to where we are today.
Oh, great. That is a great question. I actually love sharing this story. I wish it was one of those stories where I said, I grew up and, I always loved sports and I wanted to do it and I went to college and I wish that was the case. In my case, I was working jobs that I did not like. I've always liked sports. I played basketball in high school. I played baseball and tennis, and I did a lot of things. So um, couldn't play college because I hurt my knee. So as years went on, I wanted to work in sports, but it kept always saying, you got to have playing experience, and I knew I didn't actively play. So one day, I was feeling depressed because I was going through that a lot and I said, dang, I hate this job. There's got to be something in sports. So I know I like sports, and people keep saying that I'm good in psychology. I know I like psychology. So I Googled sports and psychology. This is what happened.
That's a
And
good
I got
search. That's a good way to start. Yeah.
it's a great start. And I said, wait a minute, sports psychology, this is a thing. I found one course at Capella, signed right up, took that. So that's how I got into sports psychology. And I loved it. Fast forward, how I became a licensed therapist was I had a interview with a professional football team, and I was nervous. I'm new. I'm learning. I'm still learning the ropes. I spoke to the athletic trainer, the athletic director, and I did not get the job. So on LinkedIn, which is a great place, I found the person. It's not like I was actively looking for the guy, but it just popped up, and I saw that this person was a licensed therapist. So I said, so is this why I lost? All right, found a program, enrolled in school because I said I'm not gonna miss out on another chance. So I went back to school, and now I'm a licensed therapist.
Nice.
So yeah, there it is.
Right on. And I appreciate you sharing that. What would you think, or what have you found? Because you dabble on both sides, right? Where there are
Hmm.
people who stick to one side, whether it's more on the clinical side or more on the
Hmm.
mass performance side, right? And you've had the opportunity to have your foot in kind of both areas. And
Hmm.
what have you seen as far as like similarities and like the stuff that crosses over and stuff that kind of is unique to one side?
That's an awesome question. I feel like where the crossover comes is a lot of times, and they don't want you to do this. They meaning some of these pro teams. A lot of when working with the mental performance side, it's like
Yeah.
the clinical side gives me like the answer. Oh, this person is unable to control their emotions because it's something else.
Mm,
Um, when it's split is pretty much the best way to do it is I feel like mental performance is surface, meaning I'm giving you tools to get through. I'm giving you tools to be able to uh, manage your performance, make it happen. Where the other side is, this is the underneath layer now.
yeah.
Why is it happening? So I kind of see there is a crossover, but a lot of teams, well, at least when I did try to go for this basketball team, this pro team, one of the issues they said they had was it wasn't separated.
Mm,
It has to be separate. And I feel like that's kind of hard because when you're dealing with someone that says, I have trouble with the coach, I shut down. That's not mental performance. I mean, it can be, but it's something else. Why are you shutting down? So that's how they kind of cross over, and I feel like being able to do both is able to allow me to have more options to help the athlete.
got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've been working in this field for many years, and my background is strictly mental performance, but just my general understanding about the clinical side. Yeah, there is a ton of crossover, right, like you were saying, and how even when there are times where I'm working with a client, yeah, there are times where I'm just they came in with one issue, and
Hmm.
come to find out like there's something deeper there. I remember I was working with a professional baseball player one time, and just got drafted, and um, he was a pitcher, and it was maybe a few months in, and he's had a couple of starts under his belt. And we were talking, and next thing you know, he's telling me like, yeah, when I'm good, I'm good, right? But when
Hmm.
I'm off, I'm off. When it goes bad, it goes
Right.
bad. So he kind of spirals a lot, and so he's like, yeah, I get on myself a lot, and I tell myself like I got to do this, and all of a sudden I'm like aiming the ball and like I'm pressing so hard, I feel like my dad's in my ear all the time.
Hmm.
And he's like, yeah. And then next thing you know, so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I caught the dad comment, right? So I was like, hey, what are you talking about with the dad comment? And he's like, well, when I was younger, my dad was always, my coach, and basically up until high school, he always coached my baseball teams, and it was always that ride home, right? That I always dreaded. It was like no matter how great of a game I had, it was never good enough for him, right? And so, which is
Hmm.
a common story you hear about with athletes, and so anyway, the reason I'm bringing up that story is because this ball player I'm working with, this baseball player, he's coming in with the very very common challenge that athletes face, which is when things don't go well, it starts to spiral, get in your head. You try to force it, right?
Hmm.
But then, like all of a sudden, here comes this issue with the dad that he acknowledged. He's like, I didn't realize like still impacted me today. And this guy's like what 19, 20, 21, professional baseball player, and his dad is still like in his head kind of thing, And so
Right.
that was a deep rooted thing, like you were talking about, right? Like there's that crossover there where like if he never said that, or if he never said that, and or if I wasn't paying attention, if I wasn't like actively listening, I would have missed that. And who knows, and because if we were to keep addressing like the pressures in his head, we can definitely help with that. Um but then I had to go down that path of, all right, we got to talk about the dad stuff. You got some daddy issues here,
Right.
right?
Right.
And yeah, it turned out to be a deep rooted issue that it lingered since he was young, you know. But that's where a lot of, I know there are people watching this who are colleagues in the field of mental performance who are thinking about joining. That's one thing that I tell, especially early practitioners, is to kind of have an active ear, like listen to
Hmm.
stuff, right? Um, and because you never know, right, where there might be like a deep rooted thing, right? Like, what are your thoughts on all that?
I highly recommend if you can to do that only because a in the way I'm thinking and from what I've been seeing, a lot of uh, pretty much in this field, I think they're trying to hire people that do both.
Hmm.
Because I don't know if it's a cost thing or what, but I do feel that. So it's good to at least have that. But also, you can really get to the root, like really. And it's not even about knowing like disorders. And I'm not, it's just like at least this, like you said, active listening.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times we're like, okay, use self-talk, use this, but a lot of times if you listen, because I like to know why. It's like, what is the foundation? And having that counseling side, technically, we're not trained to talk. Like, even though people think like when you go to therapy, we tell you what to do, and we tell you, no, that's not what we're trained to do. We're trained to listen and chime in and let you talk. So I think that that's one feature that they teach in therapy and in counseling courses. Just listen, because if you and even if there's a pause, we're not even supposed to talk like right away. Just sit there.
Yeah.
Because A, people don't like awkward silence. And B, they're they're gathering their thoughts. They're gonna eventually get to the root of stuff. Because
Hmm.
especially if you work with an athlete and you done told them certain things and you done tried all these skills and some stuff ain't working, just let them talk. And then like you said, boom, oh, it was a that issue. Oh, okay. So just or at least train in that area of just actively listening. Just hush, be quiet, let them go, and then you would really know like what's good and know what strategies to use.
Yeah. Yeah, and you brought up a great point as far as the letting that silence linger, right? Like let it linger.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of early practitioners, and I'm sure myself included at one point, it's like when there's that silence when you ask a client like, what are your thoughts on that, for example? They're like,
Yeah.
it's like alarm bells are going through her head of like, I gotta say something here, and instead of just let,
Yes.
let it simmer, right? Like if you're listening to this and you're working in mental performance, even mental health, um, and those moments are gonna come up, and but those moments are important to have because you're allowing the client to like just be with their thoughts for a couple
Hmm.
seconds and but yeah, it's a very very common error that people early practitioners make is like they feel like that there can't be silence. I have to talk, right? And this is where like having that gut feeling of all right, like should I let it simmer a little more? I know like one
Hmm.
thing I do is if it's going quite a bit, I'll ask them, right? Like what do you think right now, right? Because what
Hmm.
sometimes practitioners will do across mental health and mental performance is um, they'll try to ask them another question, right? And then it's like, well, what about what you just asked them, right? And so
Right.
this is where you have to just be confident in yourself as a practitioner, just like letting that moment simmer. And again, if you're giving it time and they're still kind of like thinking about it, for free, at least the way I approach it is like, what are your thoughts on this? Or what are you thinking right now? But again, this is a lot of the counseling skills stuff that's taught, right? And this is
Hmm.
why even myself, working, having a strictly educational background in mental performance, I took all those classes, the counseling skills, right? Because again, the crossover there with mental health and counseling and clinical and mental performance, right? There's so much crossover there that, especially when you look at the counseling skills stuff, right?
Right.
So much there.
Yeah. And then even something simple like they also train us. I'm not gonna give away all the stuff, but they train us not to ask because this was an issue I had when I was in school, and it was like, this is not an interview. Um, Change it. Instead of saying, so like, what happened? You say, tell me what happened.
Yeah.
Just something subtle like that, because a lot of times, then this is knowing like the counseling side, with a lot of athletes who may be neurodivergent or who may not be neurodivergent, when you ask question after question after question, the way their brain processes it is once you ask too many questions, their brain gets overloaded. So now it's scrambling like this versus tell me how you felt. Tell me how you felt when you missed that foul shot. Um, Versus, tell me like So like, how did you feel? So
Yeah.
like, were you upset? So like, did the coach talk to you? And he's just like, hey, man, you got any times you want to ask a question? Versus, you telling them, like, tell me, talk to me. So it's just more of to give you that something subtle like that. It's
Yeah.
like a game changer. And once I finally got that down, because my counseling teachers would say like, I watched your video because we had to like do mocking. You're asking too many questions. You're asking too many questions, and so that subtle change, I use that with my athletes, and it gets them going. So a lot of times, if I sometimes I catch myself like, all right, dude, you asked like three straight questions. Now just tell them, tell me. So tell me how you felt when you had missed that, or tell me how you felt when the coach yelled at you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Got to be more direct, right? More specific,
yeah,
like you're questioning. Yeah.
right.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because speaking of neurodivergent, I want to kind of give yourself some time here to talk about um, a topic that I know is near and dear to your heart, and something that you've
Mhm.
been, like I mentioned in the onset, is that you've been talking about going around the country, giving different talks, but and that's a part of the reason, as I mentioned before, I wanted to bring you on to talk about your knowledge and also experience, with ADHD, and because I know you've gone around giving talks about
Mhm.
how ADHD, it can potentially impact emotional regulation and performance among athletes. So, can you share with everyone as far as like what you understand about that, and also whatever you feel comfortable sharing your firsthand experience?
Okay. Uh, I promise I'm gonna like keep myself together because I can go forever. But um I wish so those who don't know, well, of course you don't, because you probably just now seeing me here. I was diagnosed with ADHD 2022, like mid 2022. And it was only because my son, who is autistic, I noticed something else was off besides that. So when the psychiatrist was testing him, she subliminally was testing me.
Hmm.
Um, and I passed with flying colors. So she said, out of 40 questions, I answered like 38. That's insane. Um, but in all seriousness, I wish I knew I had it sooner because that affected my playing career. And that caused me not to be where I should have been um, in basketball. I loved basketball, but there's a lot of the things that if I had known that I had it, I could have got help. There are so many. The reason why this passion, not just because I have it, but I was an athlete that had it, and I was an athlete that did not reach his full potential because of this. A lot of people just think ADHD is you're hyperactive. It's far from that. There are so many athletes, and even when I met with pro athletes, college athletes, high school athletes, there are so many people who are undiagnosed. And when I hear them talking to me, I'm like, wow, that's an issue. And just to run down briefly, some things are rejection syndrome. People with ADHD have rejection syndrome, which means that anytime we get criticized, sorry, I have a speech impediment too. Go figure. ADHD and
You're
speech.
good.
But I'm still doing.
You're good.
If we get rejected, if we get criticized, if we um, let people down, because of the way our brains is shaped or is smaller than a normal person, that hurts. So it's like if we have a bad game, it is very difficult to get over it. It's not just and it's like we don't even know why. It's not like we want to be down or sad. It's the way our brain is structured with this condition that a missed shot, life is over. And it's like a heavy weight and it's hard to get over. And also with that comes negative self-talk. We replay these things, especially because a person with ADHD thinks all the time. So they're replaying that bad game or them hurting someone or them saying something the wrong way. And that they're sitting there like, man, I'm not good. I suck. And usually what happens is they quit or if they're not seeing progress because it's a motivation deficiency disorder. It's also a dopamine deficiency disorder. But if we're not motivated, which means if we're on the bench, why am I playing? Now I'm not going. Also, partner with ADHD is oppositional defiant disorder, which means you ain't gonna tell me what to do. You ain't gonna tell. You're gonna yell at me. Now you yell at me. Now I'm ready to go hard. Emotional regulation. We have issues with that because that part of our brain is lacking. Impulse, which leads to bad behaviors, risky behaviors outside of the playing field. Us engaging in risky behaviors. Um, but the emotional part, I'm angry. Someone didn't pass me the ball. Now I'm angry. Now I'm ready to fight. Now I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to shut down. Uh, being very passive, not being able to speak your mind unless you become aggressive. So all these things that athlete is dealing with. Also, what they don't also see is being bored. Um, Giving us too many instructions. So a lot of the playbooks I've have taught the coaches where they say the players just not getting the playbook. Well, if you have 1,000 things written with a bunch of scribbles, my brain is overwhelmed. So ADHD person brain gets overwhelmed just from the sound, the thought of them having to do a lot and seeing it. So if the coach saying, "All right, guys, you're gonna do this drill. Then after this drill, you're gonna run 10 laps. And after run 10 laps, you're gonna run this play, this play, this play." By the time the coach walks away, I'm staring at my teammate. So like, we got to run laps. Yeah, and we got to do the rest of the stuff. But what was the other stuff? Now you're not paying attention. Now I'm labeled as a bad teammate. I'm labeled as a bad athlete because I wasn't listening. No, I couldn't process everything at that time. Um, when it comes to performance, also partner with ADHD is anxiety and depression. So the fear, because we think all the time, I'm in the game, I'm overthinking. So now I'm getting anxious. I'm afraid to get yelled at. I don't want to get yelled at by coach. So I'm afraid to play a certain way. So all of that affects the athlete. And that's why I feel as though that this topic, and I definitely made it short because I could have went. This topic is near and dear because there's so many athletes who are not living up to their full potential because of undiagnosed ADHD or ODD or other mental disorders that are affecting how they play.
Yeah, and I feel and a lot of great stuff, man. I feel this isn't talked about, and I'm glad that you are bringing this to the surface because it's tough enough for any athlete to go through the different challenges that sports presents, right?
Mhm.
But when you have something going on, right? When you have something going on in your brain, right? This is where we get the neurodivergence. It just makes it more challenging, right? It's easy to tell a basketball player who just missed a shot, "Hey, forget about it, move on," right?
Mhm.
Um, but from what you're telling me, it's a lot more challenging for someone with ADHD. It's hard enough for anyone. I don't care whether
Exactly.
you have ADHD or not, but let alone someone with ADHD, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm curious, like, how would you, as now a practitioner in the field,
Mhm.
like, how would you, or if someone was listening to have ADHD, right? Like, what is something that you would tell them to, as far as like that, like common stuff such as like dealing with missed shots or turnovers, that kind of stuff, especially knowing that there is like an additional challenge, that comes with having ADHD.
So one thing that I do is I always explain why. So I have a master ADHD list. So even if someone has it, or if they don't, or if I suspect, the first thing I ask them is, "What do you know about it?" They either say, "I don't know anything," or "I can't sit still." I said, "So that's all you know." So what I do is I have a master list that I handmade. Is very long. It's the weaknesses and the strengths because we just don't have weaknesses. We have strengths
Absolutely.
that non-neurodivergent people do not have. Some of the richest people in this world have ADHD. The most successful people. So what I do is I ask them. So I give them the list and I say, look up as much as you can. The reason it sounds simple, but we dig ourselves into rabbit holes. Meaning, if you're talking to me and you said, "So Vince, I went to Dallas because Dallas has good ribs." Hmm, barbecue ribs in Dallas. Then I'll see something else. Juke joint, juke. Where did the word juke come from? So we'll keep going and keep going and keep going. So I say research ADHD. Look up as much as you can until I see you the next week. So that's the first assignment. Learn it, understand it. And then I go from there. Because the key is if you know what's happening, then you know like, oh, I'm about to get pissed off. Let me use the coping skill associated with this. You don't always do that, but because we have poor impulse control and poor emotional, if you know something's about to happen, then you can use the coping skill. And then I would give them, of course, I would give them like the coping skills. I would tell them, okay, this is what's happening. This is why it's happening. This is what you got to do when this happens. This is what you need. And I tell them, train yourself, practice it. Because I tell them, one mental performance skill I use, visualization. That is so key because visualization creates the same neural pathways in your brain as if you physically practice. So I say, of course, I say practice you playing and all that other stuff, but practice the emotional side. Imagine coach yelling at you. Imagine you missing the shot. Imagine a teammate yelling at you. So you know how that feels. And now you're preparing yourself. You already done went through the motion, so it's not hitting you off guard. Because with poor impulse control, if I'm angry, there was a team I played where the point guard and the shooting guard was arguing the whole time, and in the middle of the game, they fighting in half court. They just literally fist fighting. It couldn't wait. So at
Yeah.
least if you know your body and you know what's happening, so that's the first thing I do before I give any coping skill, unless it's something quick where I gotta tell you, like, okay, use this. But I say, learn yourself, learn the condition, learn your body. When you know that you're having a bad day, if you know that you're going to be annoyed today, because we randomly get annoyed, like, it's just what it is. We wake up annoyed. Just the sight of somebody just makes me mad. It's usually the people in the house. But if you know this, you're like, wait a minute, I'm annoyed today. It's not going to last. What can I do so I don't be disrespectful? Or coach is going to piss me off today. What can I do? I know this is done. I know this is the ADD day. What can I do to survive until it goes down? So it's kind of like sea level. Some
Mhm.
days, some symptoms are worse. So yeah, that's usually where I start. I give them the list, tell them go home, study it, research.
Yeah, and I feel that's going to help increase their own self-awareness, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
just in general is great. That I know it's something I always strive for early and often with my clients to help them be more aware of
Mm-hmm.
like their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors of the different situations that they've already experienced and encountered, and also it'll help them be more aware in the future. But someone with ADHD, even more so, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there, like, like you said, sometimes there are good days, sometimes there's bad days, and when it comes to the, with the different challenges that we see, so I think that's a great thing that you just add on to, what we're doing as far as practitioners in the field, like working with our athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about, strengths, right? Because I agree.
Right.
When people bring up neurodivergence, it's very common for like the next step to be they talk about the challenges or the weaknesses or whatever you want to call it. But
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to give you an opportunity to share the strengths that come with that, right? Because I feel that that is not talked about enough.
Right. Yeah, because it's always the bad. Like we're procrastinators and we're this and we're
Yeah.
that. Um, so first strength, well, there are a lot. So we are problem solvers. We can solve a problem, the most complex problems. We're very creative. Um, we're hyper focused when we're motivated.
Hmm.
That's the key. If I love basketball, I'm gonna watch every film. I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna study. I'm gonna do every little thing because I'm motivated. So yeah, when we're motivated, we can do it. Um, This is a good and a bad thing. We're procrastinators, but when our back's against the wall, that's when we thrive
Mm,
because of that sense of urgency. And that can come great if you're playing in the game, it's clutch. It's crunch time. If you know
yeah.
how. So the best way I always say this is those of you who don't watch the X-Men, we are X-Men, meaning Xavier, who is Professor X, he found us and he takes us to the school and he's teaching us how to use our strengths. So he's so to learn control strengths, meaning if the game's on the line, if it's not controlled, you're going to get anxiety. You're going to fold. But if you know
Mm,
that, all right, we got like 2 minutes, like I can't lose. Also, another strength, we're very competitive. We're super competitive. Like that's why I went back to school because I ain't gonna keep losing these jobs, damn it.
yeah.
But we're super competitive. So I think that can translate to the field. Also, when we're motivated, like I said, we will work hard. It's because that's a dopamine rush for us.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, our dopamine levels keeps doing this. But if I love the sport, I'm gonna compete. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna really show you that I'm gonna be better. And another strength is don't tell us we can't do something. Like, do not. Yeah, I bet you that you won't hit a home run. What? Okay. Now it's like that's all. Even if we didn't want to play ball that day, don't tell us we can't do something because now you done started something. That's my motivation. So yeah, so those are just like a few strengths, but and also we're always thinking. We're always thinking. So it's like I'm always thinking, we're always thinking of a way to be better, to play better, to, okay, this person got me this game. How am I gonna get him next game? All right, cool. So those are just a few strengths that are very, very key strengths if we know how to activate it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great insight, man. And you brought up one thing I want to ask about.
Hmm.
Uh, and you talked about motivation, right? Um, which is an important aspect of what coaching entails, right? Is to how
Hmm.
can you tap into your players, motivate them, and to get them going, right? As far as going towards that common goal. Uh, what is some advice that if a coach or were watching and listening to this right now, what is some advice that you would give a coach who has an athlete with ADHD and helping that athlete thrive and be the best that they can be?
Oh, that is a tough question. Ooh, that's a tough question. And that's tough because you don't know which ADHD that player has. Um,
So where would you
this
tell a coach to start if they don't know? Like is there like say for example, because yes, I mean as you know, right? Sometimes athletes are very open about talking about if they have whether ADHD or anything else, right? Whether it's something mental or physiological, like some people are open about that stuff, and some people aren't. So we'll assume for a second, right, that and I think comes up and tell the coach, hey coach, I just want to give you a heads up, I have ADHD and kind of do with that as he was, right?
right.
So obviously we understand that there are individual differences, right? Even with among people with ADHD, right? You have people who
Mhm.
have different experiences with it, and well, like just like anything else. But what is some advice that that you think a coach should know or be aware of to kind of like keep in mind and when it comes to coaching an athlete with ADHD?
Mm. Whew. All right.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I just,
Because you
this
know
is
why?
important.
Because
It's
yeah, it
important because
is.
as
It's
as a
very important.
coach, we try to get the best out of our athletes, right? And if I know that an athlete has a certain experience, like some of the stuff you talked about, I want to know like, okay, how can I make get the best out of them while also supporting them as much as I can.
Okay. I want to say because yes, coaches do have a lot on their plate. I completely get that. I know coaches wear a lot of hats. In a perfect world, I would want the coach to learn about ADHD or at least have a list because then you'll know the player. But we know that, let's just say that that's not there. All right. So the first thing I'll do is if a player came up to the coach and says, I have ADHD, I'm sorry, the coach would need to do some kind of research first. Um, at least what are the key components? They ain't got to into the deep stuff. What are the key components? And then from there, they can learn that player. Like, okay. Then I would tell them if there's time, just talk to your player and ask them, how are you motivated? What motivates you? Like, what do you like? Now I know that can be hard if someone has a whole football team to ask every single player.
Sure.
But if this player came up to you, because you don't know, like somebody like me, yell and curse at me, I'm fine with that. Tell me, challenge me.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But somebody else, because we also have hypersensitivity, their hypersensitivity could be yelling.
Yeah.
Now they're gonna shut down. So it's
Yeah.
like I would ask them, like, how do you get motivated? Like, do you like people yelling or what? And then I would start there. Um, because there was a clip that's been I don't know if you watched the women's NCAA tournament. There
Mhm.
was a video of this coach in the player's face, and people was like, "Oh man!" Like it looked like she was yelling, but she wasn't. She was
Yeah.
being motivational. And then the player said, "That's what I like."
Yeah.
So I think that's key because a lot of coaches, and I hope a lot of these coaches are listening. One size don't fit all.
Hmm.
It just does not. Um, you don't know what these players are going through. So I think I would start there. Learn about the condition if they come to you, and what? How do you like to be motivated?
Mm. Got it. And honestly, yeah, that's as you were talking, I'm because I've coached many years, youth, high school, college, different sports, and I'm just thinking, honestly, if someone had ADHD or not, or someone had a certain condition or not, um, my approach wouldn't differ too much, and that's just me, right? Like you're
Hmm.
talking about, learning about them, learning what their motivation is, and how they want to be motivated, and how they want to be taught to. That's something I've done, right? And at first I did it. At first it was kind of like
Right.
a one size fits all. Like you're gonna get, you're gonna get the old school coaching out of me because that's how I was coached.
Hmm.
I came in guns a blazing, like yelling and screaming, coaching football and stuff. And then over the years, right, and along with maturity, right, and experience, I realized like it doesn't work for everyone, right? Some players might be, that might work. It was as you mentioned the example of the women's basketball player.
Hmm.
Others, I remember, realizing that's going to make them shut down, ADHD or
Hmm.
not, right? Like that's going to make them shut down. I have to take a different approach, right? So, I mean, honestly, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I think just to me, as far as a coach and how they interact with their athlete, it doesn't seem like there's much of a difference there as far as how they approach or how they should approach their athletes
Hmm.
because at least for me, right? Like, again, again this took a little bit of time for me to understand, right? Didn't happen
Right.
overnight for me personally, but like I got to know my players even when I coached football. Like you said, it's a big team, but before practice, after practice, I would make it a point to go talk to an athlete or two, ask them how it's going, how's class going, how's family, and you get to know the personalities. And I realized, there's some that I got talked to if I need to, get on them a little bit. And, I could still show them like, tough love, but it comes out of a good place, comes from love.
Hmm.
Others where I could kind of get on them a little bit more and knowing like, okay, that'll get them going. But honestly, I mean, I think just get the common denominator here is get to know your players, and know what motivates them, know how to motivate them, know how to get to them, and I think that. it should be the case across the board, ADHD or not. I mean, you tell me, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, and that's why, and this is something now I'm just putting a plug in now, something else I would like to fight for. But there's some teams with a gazillion assistant coaches. This the rebounding coach, the hitting coach, the cleats coach, the socks coach. This is why one of the assistant coaches need to be a mental coach. They
Hmm.
need to be because they can take care of that. They can have a survey. All right, guys, you want to fill this out. This is your motivation style. This is this, and have someone do that, and then they can talk to the coach and say, okay, this pile likes to be screamed at. This pile likes this or this. I'm just saying it for example, and this is why that needs to be because you're right. Whether you're a neurodivergent or not, you don't know the trauma that player went through.
Hmm.
And now with the transfer portal, and I've noticed this with the transfer portal being so easy now, people is leaving. Excuse
Yep.
me, people are leaving. People are leaving, and it's because they don't have to. They don't have to anymore.
Hmm.
Like when we was coming up, if I'm at the school, if I transfer, I gotta wait a year.
Hmm.
It's I guess I gotta deal with it. And
Yeah.
honestly, and when people use the word this era of athletes is soft, and I don't necessarily say that. It's because this stuff is easier now. So if the coach is yelling, I don't have to be here. So now you got programs with high turnover rate and all this, but then the coaches that are successful are the ones that may ask something simple.
Hmm.
How's the family? Are you okay? How are you feeling? Dad,
Yeah.
this person cares.
Hmm.
Now I'm ready to play for you.
Yeah.
Now I'm ready to give my all for you. Or so it's like just that should yes, that should be across the board. And I think that coaches should have help or someone that specializes in that department to help him or her because that is a lot that they have. But yeah, I think coaches should already do that. But got a lot of I'm not trying to throw any feathers. You got a lot of coaches that are narcissists, power hungry. They might have been bullied when they were in schools, but now they have power, and it's my way or no way. And these athletes tell me these things, so
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't have nothing against coaches. It's just that that's what they say, and
Yeah.
a lot of them say I have to talk to the assistant because the coach won't do this. So yeah, I believe coaches should do that across the board because your team is a family.
Yeah.
That's your family. I know it's a business, but that's your family and you want to get to know them. So like, all right, that's how I can get the best out of them. If not, they're gonna leave. And now you gotta recruit all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel it just times have changed, and
Hmm.
I mean, you look at the coaches who were like old school, right? In a way,
Hmm.
they're not lasting very long, right? Especially if they're not adjusting to the current times. And when you have the portal, and you have just even pro athletes who I feel it's more about business these days, where it's like, hey, which hey, I can't argue with them if they go sign with another team, right? Because teams forever have been training, athletes back and forth, and no one talked about that, right? As far as how it
Hmm.
impacted the athletes. So I can't argue if a player wants to leave a certain environment, whether it's college or pro, right?
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I have come across coaches who are just, they're stubborn in their ways, and to me, to each their
Hmm.
own, right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, um, it's a lot. It's easier now more than ever for an athlete to get up and go, even at the high school level. I mean, it's before.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is where you live, but here in California, it's not as strict as far as if you have to live, you have to play in this, you have to go to school in the same city you live in. Now there's the lines are not as strong, I guess if you say. So
Right.
yeah, the athletes are going to different high schools, and so if you're not adjusting to the athletes, if you're not trying to figure out, okay, like what can I do to connect with my athletes and help develop this program, I'm not saying for coaches to to throw away all their expectations for the athlete. No, absolutely not. And because my approach later on and what it is now. Is yeah, I'm gonna adjust how I coach, for with the different athletes, but at the same time, I have the same expectations for everyone, right? Like
Right.
you're gonna be on time, you're gonna give all your effort. You're going to be a good teammate. You're going to be respectful. All this stuff is across the board, right?
Right.
So it's people have this, this thing of like, oh, if we give into athletes, it's going to be like chaos. Like, no, right? You can still run a tight, you can still run a tight ship, right?
Hmm.
But also like having that sort of relationship with their athletes, and honestly, I feel that the coaches at any level, the ones who have been able to do that, are the ones who are achieving success, short term and long term, especially building a program that they're trying to develop.
Exactly. That matters.
Now
That
more than
matters.
ever. Now more than
Yeah.
ever. You know.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yep.
but I know you've had a lot of great experience in the field, and so I do get people watching this who are trying to break into the field, trying to get any experience in working with athletes or performance or mental health. Like, what is some advice? Because just like anyone else, right, and that includes people I've had on the show. Um, you've gone through ups, you've gone through downs, and but
Yeah.
what is and trust me, I've been there, man. Like
Uh,
we all have our own unique experience and our journeys that are far from perfect, right?
mhm.
But what is some advice you would give someone, who would want to pursue a career in, like, say, mental performance?
Um, you got to be aggressive. That's the best way I can put it. Definitely go to school. Of course. But like once you get done school, go to LinkedIn and you connect. Just close your eyes and just hit connect with as many people in the field.
Until you get
Um,
blocked, yeah.
until you get blocked.
Until you get restricted from LinkedIn, yeah.
Because I'm gonna be honest, this oh boy, this field is very rewarding. But the reality is, it's not like other jobs where you can just go on not LinkedIn, go on Indeed or another job posting and see a bunch of jobs
Yeah.
or the app site. It's not. So you have to get your connections up. It's about who you know too. So just be aggressive. Put yourself out there. Work for free. I worked for free a lot. I still do. But I worked for free because I genuinely liked it. And I was more so like, I just want the chance. And because all those free things, all those free seeds I planted, they're sending people to me or they're referring me to this or the team. So just put yourself out there. And the reason why I say be aggressive is because your brain is going to tell you, I don't know enough. I don't know anybody. What if? Those two words you got to get rid of. You got to have a killer mindset. You're either going to be a guppy in this field or you're going to be a shark. And when you decide to be a shark, that's when you're going to make stuff happen. Don't sit and wait. Make it happen. Um, I told myself last year, because you said I've been traveling all over the country. So this year has been my best year in this field because I decided that I'm gonna be aggressive. And I've been all over so far. And it's only April and I'm not done. Um, but it took a rejection. It took me getting pissed off, but that's cool. No matter what motivates you. So I said to myself, and I put it on LinkedIn 2026, I'm coming. And that's what happened. So you got to have that mindset. Make it a competition. Don't just, oh, let me check and see if there's a job opening. No, make one, get one. Write those proposals. Go to the on an athletic site, find emails, send them. Hi, this is who I am. If they don't respond, oh well, keep going. Quantity, not quality. So,
Mic drop. Boom.
mic
Yeah,
drop.
I love it.
Make it happen. Make it
Absolutely.
happen.
I double stamp that, triple stamp that. Absolutely. Yeah. Because honestly, yeah, you get your credentials up, you get your foundation and stuff like your education. Someone who wants to work in mental performance, that's CNPC.
Mhm.
And but also the networking, the connections is also a big part of it, right?
Huge.
And absolutely just LinkedIn. I can't stress that enough. I just, again, what you've already talked about.
Yes.
connect to people, and honestly, that's and next thing you know, because yeah, if you're just sitting and waiting for someone just to fall into your lap, good luck, right? You're gonna get all real quick, you know, and then and realize nothing's happening, right? You got to make it happen and make because yeah, sometimes people get jobs like or opportunities, whether it's to whether it's a job, whether it's a speaking opportunity, or like you had like
Mhm.
those opportunities you've had to speak didn't come out of out of nowhere, right? Out of thin air. Like no, you made those happen, right? You created your luck, you
Right.
created your opportunities, and
Hmm.
it's awesome to see you do that stuff, man. So I appreciate that everything you've done, and I can't wait to see you keep swimming in those waters. You, right?
Right.
And keep taking out those guppies out there because yeah, it is competition, right? And that's the beauty
Hmm.
about this stuff. Most of us are former athletes, and
Hmm.
that's where our competitive side comes out of like, all right,
Right.
bet, right? Like if you tell
Yeah.
me you reject me or you turn me down or whatever, right? I'm gonna take it like I just lost a game or I just struck out or I missed that shot. I'm gonna come back on the next one. Don't worry about me.
Yep.
I'm getting
That's
back,
right.
right? So
Hmm.
it's having the mentality of like, that's one of the beauties about sports. It teaches the life skills, including how to get up when you've been knocked down.
Exactly.
So I appreciate your insight on that, man. I also appreciate everything you talked about with the topic of ADHD and neurodivergence because that's such an important topic and I feel like, again it's not talked about enough. So I appreciate you shedding some light on that. Now, if people want to get a hold of you to follow you, to get in contact with you, or like, what would be the best way to do that?
Well, first, you can catch me on LinkedIn. My name is Vince Carter, like the ball player. You should know the greatest dunker ever. Um, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Vince Carter. Check out my company website. So I am the founder, CEO of Distinguished Elite Mental Performance. The website is we-elite.com. We-elite.com. And you can you can also email me at vcarter, VCARTER, at we-elite.com.
I love it. Good stuff, man. Yeah, definitely connect with Vince here. He's doing a lot of great things in the field. Has a lot of great knowledge, and definitely get in contact with him. So, all right, Vince, I appreciate you coming on here, my friend. Again, we
Thank you
always
for
have
having
good
me.
conversations, and
Yes, yes.
thank you for sharing everything you did.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you for watching this. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you all in the next one. See ya.